Today I'm going to do the low boy that matches the high boy I did a few weeks ago. So I already know somewhat what to expect because I know the top is laminate. Sometimes you just never know with painted pieces, but it was painted for a boy's room, so it's gray and red. But I know there's beautiful wood under the sides and on the drawers. So my goal is to strip it. I don't know if I'm going to mess with trying to put veneer on the top or not. I may just paint it. Because you can paint laminate, and I've got a really good paint that's super strong and would go really well on the top of a dresser. So you have to use the right paint on laminate, and especially the right paint on the top of a dresser that gets a lot of wear. So let's see what we can do. So here it is, nice Basset. Obviously I already know this is laminate underneath it, but this paint is chipping, so it's going to need more than just a scuff sand. I'm going to strip that, but all the drawers, I mean, this is super clean. There's a little bit of overspray. I'll have to get some acetone. Socks go here. It's cute. But not, I mean, it's not a horrible paint job. I know it's been primed and painted. They tried, but it just needs a little update. There's beautiful wood underneath here and on the sides. I've got 3 legs that are wobbly, so I'll have to take those out and re-glue them. But still thinking about what to do on the top. So let's just get it stripped and we'll see what I got.
So I'm going to start by stripping the top down. I'm using greenies. This is a non-toxic stripper. So I'm going to apply it with a thick layer. Then I'll put some plastic wrap over it just to make sure it doesn't dry out. Once I let it set and do its thing, I'll just use a little putty knife to come through and try to get off as much of that paint as possible. It was sticking. This was really cold outside when I was doing this. We had a lot of variations in our weather. We had a cold spurt, and then the next week it was in the 70s, so it's been kind of crazy. So it's kind of hard sometimes to do some of this in certain weather. But after I use my scraper, I'll come back with some acetone, and then I'll use some fine steel wool, and I'll get all of that paint off. I'm going to do the exact same process on all of these drawers. Now the drawers, oh man, there's paint everywhere. And when I started pulling it back, the primer is stuck in the wood grain. And I was just like, oh my goodness. It's on the underneath side of the drawers where it has like a integrated handle. The red paint is everywhere. So it's just going to take me a lot of time to try to get off this paint. So it's about this time when I had to get out my brush and I'm trying to get out all of that paint that's stuck in the grooves. I was seriously questioning what in the world have I done. But you know what? It's not going to refinish itself, so we will soldier on and we will continue and we will start sanding this thing down. I always start with 80 grit and just try to get a really rough sand with my Festool. And then I'll come back and I'll still have 80 grit, try to get any of those areas that still have finish off. I'll use my hand sander, and that's really my toughest sand. And then I go up to 120 and 180, and those are really quick because I don't have any finish left, so those go really fast. Sometimes I do things out of order. I probably should have taken the legs off and then I should have stripped them, but I didn't. Sometimes I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I have a few minutes. Let me just throw some stripper on. And so that's what I did. And then I was like, okay, this is really out of order, but you know what? It still works. So I have my carbide scraper. I'm going to scrape off the finish, and then I decide, okay, well, I probably should take the leg off. So this is just a mortise and tendon joint. There's one screw in the back that holds it in. They were super loose. There was like no glue left. So I was able to just kind of manhandle it and get it out of there. I'll scrape off all the paint, get some acetone on it, and then I'll be ready to readhere those later. So now that the legs are all sanded up, I'm just going to use a little bit of wood glue, put it in the hole, and then put it a little bit around the actual leg, and then I will readhere it, screw it in, clamp it up, and they'll be good as new. Now I'm ready to stain the legs. Now they're a different kind of wood than what I have on the drawers. So I'm going to use a new to me product. It's by Osmo and it's their wood wax finish in the color cognac. So I'm just going to apply it. It's kind of like an all-in-one. So it has the stain and the hard wax oil. So I'll do one coat, see if I like it. You can layer on another coat if you want, and then I'll do one final coat with the clear Osmo hard wax oil. Now I'm ready to paint the top and the frame. Now with laminate, what I like to do is I just like to do a scuff sand, and then I like to do a final clean with liquid sandpaper just to make sure that all of the areas are edged up. It's not as important on a flat surface, more with pieces as you have ornate carvings, but I like to do it because it's kind of like an extra form of insurance just to make sure I have really good adhesion. I'm using bench shellac primer. You can spray this, but I decided just to brush and roll it this time. Bench shellac is really good for laminate because it provides really strong adhesion. I like to do the perimeter first, and then I'll come back in and do the middle. I'm using a very fine nap roller, and then once I have everything filled in, I'll go and do really long strokes and just even everything out. After that dries, at about an hour, I'll scuff sand with a high grit, then I'll do another coat of primer. I'll do another scuff sand, dust everything off, then I'll be ready to do my first coat of paint. I'm using my Earlex 5700. This is in the color Tricorn Black. When I do the sides, I like to turn down the volume. That way I don't have as much spray coming out, so it's a little bit more confined, so I don't have quite as much overspray. I'll do another scuff sand, dust it off, and then I'll come back and do another coat. While that's drying, I have some spots on the drawers that are dented, so I'm just going to steam those out with an iron.
Here's the top after 2 coats. Now I have some like texturing. This should be smooth. You shouldn't be able to see all the little droplets. So sometimes I'm using Command Paint. This is by Benjamin Moore. And it's like great paint. It's industrial, super strong, but it dries really fast. And yesterday it got really warm. So I added some Floetrol, but I think I need to add a little bit more, and that will kind of slow down the drying time and hopefully level everything out. So let's try it again.
I like to make sure that I'm stirring my paint really well and I'm straining it. So I don't have a measurement for you. I'm just eyeballing the Floetrol, but I put in more than I did last time. I make sure I stir everything up, and I'm kind of checking the viscosity of it to make sure it's going to flow really well. I am using a 1.5 needle on this. I find that it's a little bit better with a thinner paint. I really love this gun. It's an all metal gun, so it's really easy to keep clean. You can see I had some problems putting my needle in. I have this tiny little kind of like a bottle brush or cleaner, and I got it down in there, and it was able to dislodge some paint that had gotten stuck in there. So it came with another siphon gun that I bought. So I love that little thing. It can really get into tiny spaces and make sure that I get everything cleaned out so I have a really good spray pattern. Because, you know, I don't know if you noticed on the first coat, my spray pattern was a little small. And so I think it was restricting some of the airflow. I'll do another scuff sand. I started out with kind of a light pad, but I had quite a bit of texture on there, so I had to move up to a 220 grit just to really make sure I get rid of all of that texture so that I can get a really smooth finish. And that is looking much better. You can see I don't have any texture anymore on the top. That's what I'm looking for. I've already sanded the drawers at 80 grit, but I'm now ready to move on to 120. and then I'll move up to 180, and I'm actually going to go ahead and finish off at 220 because I'm going to use the hard wax oil, and I've been experimenting going a little bit higher on my grits because they recommend between 180 and 220. So I've been going up to 220 the last couple pieces, and I'm really liking that. So when I stripped it, there was already a drawer that had some veneer damage on it. So I'm just going to apply some water over to the side. So that's the tone that I'm trying to match. I'll use my blend all sticks. I'm just going to layer the color. So I'll start light. I'll seal it with a vinyl sealer, and then once that's dry, I'll come back and layer a darker color. So I'm trying to get a little bit darker so that when I go put my oil on it, I'm going to get a lot closer to what it's going to look like when it's been sealed. Now I'm ready to seal them up. I'm using the hard wax oil by Osmo. It's very simple to apply. I'm just using a white non-woven pad. I'm just going to apply it, kind of let it wait for a few minutes, let it really penetrate deep into the wood, and then I will wipe off the excess with a blue shop towel. When I got to the sides, after I had done it, I opened the garage door, and that natural light revealed all of this paint that was stuck in the wood grain. So, I think I mentioned I had snow. I wasn't able to open my garage door, so I have a couple shop lights, but there's just nothing like natural light that can really show you all the imperfections. So I had to come through. I had to go back through with some acetone and just get all of that out as best as I could. And then I sanded it back and then put another layer of the hard wax oil on it. I'm going to use a little bit of gel stain just to tone some of those areas that I did some previous repairs on. So gel stain in combination with a chip brush, and it just does wonders to just kind of camouflage things. So what I do is I put a little bit of gel stain on my chip brush, and then I might offload a little bit with a paper towel, and then just kind of brush it on. You can use it, horizontally, vertically, just kind of put it in there, and then use a shop rag just to kind of blend things in. It's a lot of the repairs, it's just layering. You just try things. If you don't like it, you can always take it off with some mineral spirits, not a big deal. But just keep layering it and trying it and blending things in. I decided that the legs were a little bit too light, so I'm going to tone them with some of the nutmeg as well. And then after that dries, I'll seal them with the hard wax oil. Now I'm ready to line the drawers. I do a final clean with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. And then I'll use Danish oil on the insides, on the outside, just to kind of refresh that wood. And then I'm going to line the interior. I know sometimes people ask me why I line drawers, but honestly, my buyers really like the liners. So it's a little bit more effort, a little bit more money, but I think if you're selling your pieces, liners are a really good selling point. So the tops of the drawers were a slightly different wood, and so they didn't take the Osmo, they didn't darken it. So I'm going to use some of that cognac, and I'm going to the cognac hard wax oil, and I'm going to just put that just simply over the top, because you can see the tops when you close the drawers. So I wanted to make sure that that blended with the drawer fronts, and it worked really well. Well, let's look back at the before on this one. I knew what I was getting into. Well, I thought I did until, man, I got to those drawers and I was just like, oh my goodness, the white primer was just stuck so bad in the wood grain. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. But you just got to keep going because it's not going to finish itself. But after repairs, stripping the drawers, stripping the legs, reinforcing them, painting out the top and the frame, here is the finished product. What do you think? I think it's slick. I like it. I like the black. Black and wood is a great combo. It's pretty classic. I like the drawer liners. I think they're really cool. I could see it in lots of different ways. I could see it used as a media console. I could see it used as obviously a dresser. Credenza, a lot of people use this type as media consoles nowadays. So I love it. Enjoy some of these videos and I'll come back in a sec. Comments. Did you like this one? What are your thoughts? Thanks so much for watching.